I'm Author Function.
I'm Galvin.
And this is the Secret Boss Podcast, where we talk about the best auteurs in gaming, whether they deserve that title or not. And today we are talking about Madison Karrh, whose games are so fucked up and gory, really strange and weird, but also they're cozy. They're nice to play in.
You know what's really fucked up about these games? I went into expecting like racing and stuff like that, but they're not even car games. They're actually made by a person called Karrh.
Oh my god.
I mean, here's the thing. I actually feel like, I know you describe her games as cozy, and she, in some ways, kind of adopts and markets that. But in my opinion, I wouldn't call her games cozy as much as they are games that have been kind of co-opted by the cozy games military industry complex. I feel like, I mean, she says this herself. She kind of makes games just because, like she kind of makes the games based on like a reasons-based approach, where she makes stuff just based on like what she wants to see personally, which is apparently a lot of things organized very nicely, a lot of nature motifs. I'm being very general about this, but a lot of wandering around the woods and exploring it with odd, bizarre, but kind of friendly nature, forest creatures, stuff like that. And I think the playing between the line of disturbing and cozy is something that is kind of intentional in the marketing, but not really intentional in how she makes it. I think that's just how she sees the world, which is what's interesting about her games.
That's true. I don't think that she's like trying to make a game in the cozy genre. I also don't think that she's trying to make a game in the horror genre either. She has a lot of themes about like death and decay and like strange, unreal things happening within someone's life can be discomforting. But she's also like not trying to make it into a horrific place. It's hard to really put her stuff into a particular genre, besides gameplay genre, which is pretty clear, like a puzzle point-and-click adventure game. But from a tone standpoint, it's a very unique tone that I don't think I've really seen anywhere else, even like outside the realm of games, to be honest.
So what could possibly make someone like Madison Karrh have such a fucked up and disturbing tone of her games while maintaining a kind of banal, overarching, kind of mild quality? She started out in programming, which I thought was very interesting because she was not actually, because I feel like her games are very art-based instead of programming-based, but she did programming for a boring financial company, I think. She did boring financial software. That's how she describes it in like every interview she gives. But she started making games on the side after she played the Rusty Lake games, which are kind of indie point-and-click adventure games popular in the 2010s. I mean, I say popular in the 2010s. They're still going, but she realized that this is basically all the game really needs to be. So she downloaded Unity and she trained herself to start making art because she wasn't familiar with drawing. She forced herself to draw every day. And eventually she put out just a bunch of different games experimenting with Unity.
Right. Something that I found like incredible is that she has had a remarkable amount of growth in both her game design and her art as someone who is like a solo developer. I was just amazed by seeing how much she's changed from her first games to her most recent ones. And I only really started with her recent games. I just randomly found her on Steam during a like women developers sale or something, and I like saw her trailer on the page, like, oh, what is this? I want to figure out what this is. And I was like, oh wow, this is cool. I want to see more into this. And as I've dived deeper for this episode, I've been like, wow, she has really changed. Her most recent game, Birth, had like an incredible amount of algorithmic success. She got popular on TikTok, whereas her first few games just weren't really popular at all. So seeing someone just like kind of have a breakout success after having these big improvements in her work is like really inspiring to me. Because Birth has been like her breakout, I want to start there, and I want to start with her most successful work and then move backward to when things were a little bit rougher, because I think that's a more interesting narrative here, even though we haven't really done that before.
True. No, that's a good idea. Let's start with Birth. So Birth is, God, when did Birth come out? Was it 2023?
Yeah, 2023.
Oh, wow, I got it exactly right. Birth came out in 2023, and it's definitely the most polished game she's ever made. See, I don't want to say it's pretty long because it's really only an hour and a half, but having started with her earlier games first and then gone to her later games, I'm like, wow, this is a much longer version of what she does, because like her previous games are like 30 minutes, basically.
It is much more expansive, and there's so much more content and assets and like sheer number of puzzles that it just really seems like it is her first full-fledged game, putting everything together. It's also the one that like costs more than $1, so it is the first full-price game as well.
Absolute highway robbery. She's draining you of your money. Yeah. I mean, put it this way. She said she spent 18 months working on the game, and after seeing the full game, I was like, damn, only 18 months? I feel like she would have taken longer than that. But
I'm amazed the way that she made all these games so quickly. So she made her first like game on released her first game on Steam in like 2019. Her most recent game was 2023, and within those 4 years, she's just I don't know. It's just been so much. I can't believe that she did all that in the time that like a lot of people just make one indie game. Very hard work, even though she was also working as a software developer at the same time. So it's like, wow, how do you do that?
I mean, to be fair, I think after Landlord of the Woods, she quit her job and then she just went independent.
Okay,
And she
still,
got funding from Wings. Yeah, but that's still, yeah, still very impressive. Anyways, Birth is about, I mean, I can say these games are all about things, but really they're just about looking and clicking on things. And I mean that in a positive sense. What's Birth about, Offer?
yeah. So I will say that for basically all for games, there is less of a plot and more like a poem, like a tone poem kind of, where there's like an introductory scene about like what the whole thing is about. And then it'll just kind of be like about the environment afterward and interacting with objects and having like a relationship to the things in the environments instead of like any kind of actual plot development. So when I say that Birth is about being a lonely person and building a body out of organs that she finds on the street and making her own person in order to have a friend, it's not really about that on a minute to minute basis. It is way more about the puzzles, how she finds these objects, all these body parts. The main character in this game is moving in between buildings on a two-dimensional plane and just moving into these houses and businesses and just kind of looking around and finding things to interact with. And these interactions, they can be like organizing, like you'd see in many cozy games, like, okay, put all these things in the place they're supposed to. Or they can be destructive, like destroy all of these things and find whatever you can. It's mostly just like clicking around the screen and kind of seeing what happens. That's kind of the joy of it. It means that things are not exactly difficult to solve, but it's difficult to figure out like what you're supposed to be doing. It kind of feels like WarioWare, where a lot of the gameplay is like figuring out what you're supposed to do, and then doing it is kind of trivial.
Yeah. I think it's interesting the way you put that. Madison's games don't have a plot, but they do have a goal. That's one thing I noticed with the three of her games. Whimsy starts with, I need to get to this place, or I need to find this person. Birth starts with, I need to create this person out of different organs, so I have to find all the different organs. And then Landlord of the Woods is like, I have to collect rent from these people. So there is a goal established at the beginning of each of these games, but how you get to those goals is a completely different matter. I mean, Birth, you go into different buildings and it's kind of established after a while, a formula that there's one organ in each building, but it's like you don't even know what organ you're looking for until you find it. They don't even tell you. So, and like the whole thing about these tasks that you complete is that they're surreal. They don't really make much sense. It's not like somebody's like, well, I'll give you this pair of lungs if you do this stuff for me. It's like the consequences or like the rewards for things are just kind of like a natural consequence in these worlds. Like a lot of these places you walk into just have like jars out of place. And then it's just that you see those jars out of place and you want to put them in place. That causes something to happen, which gives you a reward, which allows you to fix this other thing, which allows you to fix this other thing, and so on and so forth. It's like every time you enter a room in a Madison Karrh game, there's like something wrong with the place. And you have to rearrange things back into like a cosmic order overall that you have that results in some kind of reward being lent to you. That's a theme I see across all their games, that there's like some kind of grand order that you have to submit and respect to.
Right. But order doesn't always mean organized. Because, for
Yes.
example, in the museum in Birth, everything is like already put in place. There are exhibits everywhere. And what you want is like inside an exhibit. And what's the solution here? Well, it's to smash everything with a hammer. You have to destroy all these exhibits, and then you can get what you want.
That's what's weird about it to me, because it's like a push and pull of destroying and giving. Because I don't know if you remember this, in the museum, there actually is something that you restore. You get the stars from different paintings and you put them into one specific painting of this guy like hanging down by the moon. So there is like taking things and putting them in the right place. But the ultimate reward is she gives you a hammer and you choose to smash and just steal from the museum. So it's like, what are we doing? I don't know. There's a lot of another thing that's interesting is that there's like, I mean, we'll talk about this later. I think this ties into her earlier games since we're doing this backwards. But there's a lot of like taking things from other people and you just like take them from. and, and like breaking into people's places. Like you keep entering some stranger's apartment or some stranger's house, and it's like you don't even know these people. And again, that push and pull is interesting. I think this is intentional. There's this, at the very beginning of the game, when you leave your apartment, there's a couple on the very right side of the space that you're navigating, sitting on a bench having a moment. And when you click on them, you're like, the player character tells you, I don't want to disturb them, which I feel like is kind of a setup for the punchline for the rest of the game, which is just you breaking into people's houses and like messing with their stuff. Like, what is going on here? The sense of privacy and how things work in this world is like at askew. And I think that's on purpose. Yeah. To
Yeah, I think
interrogate
there's
those
like
boundaries.
yeah, I think there's like an amorality that's kind of in her work, but like
Mm,
in a Nietzschean sense. It's like it's very life affirming. You've seen like, yes, these are things in the world and things that we can accept about it. Cause like she has a major theme of death in this game, major theme of just decay and destruction, but it's always presented in like a calm way. The colors are very flat and lots of grays and pastels is like everything is like kind of soft and accepting, but it's not like a place that's comfortable. It's like a place where these are things that are a part of this universe and they're things that you need to be understanding about, but they're not something that you have to really take as wonderful or anything, but it is a thing that you have to like accept, I guess. I don't know.
right.
Did you feel the same way?
I felt the same way. Yeah, that its deadpan presentation of you wasn't like a value judgment or anything. It was just like something that you had to do. You know, like this is just how the world is, I guess. I think one of the biggest images that stood out to me was in Landlord of the Woods. All of these games are very similar in that they all deal with death and clicking and rearranging things. So I don't think it's much of a spoiler, but the one image that stuck out to me out of all of Karrh's games is this bit in Landlord of the Woods where you open a dead snake and there's a dead rabbit inside of its stomach, and you take the rabbit and you're like, oh, we're gonna save the rabbit, we're gonna bring it back to life, right? Nope. You go to a dinner plate and you put that on the dinner plate so somebody else can eat the rabbit. I was like, that's brilliant. You know, that's just like, there's an order to things, but it still involves death and, you know, recycling and assets. I don't know. I think that's wonderful.
There's a theme of like eating other living thing, or I guess like things that were at living at some point in her games. Oh, where it's
Yes.
like, okay, there's just this like natural consumption and another state of decay in the world of things kind of having their time used up and are now being a part of something else. It's like, I don't know, there's just like I don't know anything about this, but it kind of feels like what I assume paganism is. It's um just kind of like natural way of thinking about things and like kind of I don't know, accepting nature as like something that is barbaric in a way, but like in a good way, I guess. I don't really know. This is not something that I engage with in the literature very much. I'm not a nature person.
Yeah, I was thinking about calling it like some kind of modern day nature witch stuff because I know there's a lot of books about that nowadays, or like a modern movement going on with that, but I basically know nothing about it, so I don't feel qualified to
Same.
say either.
I don't. Yeah, it's like a very witchy thing, which is something I don't know. I don't know witchy stuff, but that's the vibe I kind of got from it.
I will say this though, there is even here a kind of nervousness in putting things in the right place. I like that Madison Karrh is subverting the idea of putting things in order being the correct thing. I mean, even besides just stealing and breaking into people's places and stuff like that, the ending of this game has such like a little last twist that doesn't recontextualize the whole game, but it's also just a question put to you, like, what are you really doing here? That I think is interesting. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but it's there. It's there. You can look at it.
I don't really know what is a spoiler in this game. Please spoil it for me because I don't know.
Okay, spoilers for the game. Okay, well, first of all, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler. I guess they tell you right at the beginning of the game. The person you end up constructing out of things that you steal all over becomes like your romantic partner, which I thought was very strange. That it's not like your daughter or like a friend or something like that. It's like, it gets into like vaguely incesty tones that I don't think are like 100% intentional, but I also don't think are not 100% unintentional. Like getting to Landlord of the Woods later on, you can tell that she has thought about like what she's doing in these games and like is willing to interrogate parts of that. But the real thing that people keep talking about when it comes to birth is when you finish the game, you can go back into your apartment and it's you or your player character and your partner nuzzled up, and you can go under the bed and there's a box, and when you open the box there are photographs, and those photographs are of your player character building other NPCs that appear in the game that you've already met. So it's implying that you've built people like this before, and they're just all around town, all over the place. And that kind of recontextualizes stuff like the couple on the parks bench, which is like, oh, you don't want to disturb them, but you're okay with disturbing other people. It's like, how much of this world did you really create, basically? I mean, the whole theme of the game is that the environment like impacts people that you create, but it's also like, how much of you actually manufacture this world? Are you just like some trickster god that has been tampering with everything this whole time? There's a lot of interpretations to go with it, but it's like, if you're really putting everything in its right order, are you like, is this your world, or is it just, or are you like are you pushing other people's boundaries way too much, basically? Is there something wrong
Right.
with what you're doing?
And I should say that because of her art style, maybe this is an intentional choice in universe, but these people aren't like human beings. They're not
Yeah.
like you and us. They're like kind of like statues. They're literally hollow most of the time. You can see that there's just holes in their eyes where like their brain and everything is supposed to be. They're usually like have very still expressions. They barely move. They seem to be like in unnatural poses most of the time. And yet there's still like a city there. There are still laborers. There are still people in positions where they are like doing things, but they never seem like they're alive. They're always like statues, I guess, in my reading. Did you feel the same about the people?
I agree. I was almost about to claim until I replayed the game. So this is not true, to be clear, that the people never actually really like interact with you, but they do actually. They say that they want things, and when you give it to them, they give you like stuff in return. So they do respond to you, but it's like you're almost like not there. You can like wave your hand in front of them, and they will respond. Basically, it's kind of like a tableau sculptures set up in the middle of this huge diorama, whatever room you walk into, which ties into the game's theme, I guess.
Yeah, it's just this whole game. It is like playing with a lot of cozy game tropes and stuff, but it's never cozy. It's like strange and almost discomforting. It's really hard to put into words what these games are doing when it's a very visual experience and can't really be distilled into any one thing. And that's what I really love about these games.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I did really love organizing all of these things in this game. That's honestly, that overrode all the discomfort I have. So it is a cozy game to me. It's also just inherently funny to see these weird creatures like sit in a Starbucks and like go on their laptop.
Before we finish up on Birth, I just want to add one funny thing that I saw. There's a laundromat in this game, and if you look through the clothes, there's like one shirt that has a limb still in it. Like it's half an arm within the shirt, and it's both like really funny but also creepy in a way that I thought was like really striking. Is like, wow,
Mm.
this is really her games distilled in one moment for me. It's just a loose arm detached from anything else, just stuck inside a laundromat, and it's just kind of there, and nobody seems to mind, and I love it.
Maybe they just really needed to wash it. Who knows? Got it really dirty.
All right, so Birth was in 2023, and 2 years earlier, she had Landlord of the Woods, which is probably the most heroic protagonist that we have ever had, because in this game, you play as a landlord. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
I mean, this is like a really horrific game, and it has like one of the scariest opening sentences I've ever seen in my life, which is "You are 25."
Wow, crazy.
Terrifying. I don't want to be old. I don't want to be miserable and elderly, and sad and near death.
Near death 25-year-old. Terrible. All right. So, Landlord of the Woods starts with that line of someone being like at the cusp of becoming a real adult and having a job that they're kind of stuck in. It seems like they are also a software developer, but it's never really completely clear. And the main character is like, man, I want to get away from the world. I want to do something else. And then, lucky for the main character, it turns out that they've been selected to become the landlord of the woods. And the main character is like, yay, and goes over to the woods to collect rent from the people that are inside the woods. And this rent isn't money, but various objects that you have to find in order to progress. All these different characters will have their own, like, little, I won't say sub story, but like their own environment and their own kind of theme going on, where you have to be doing little tasks for them, going around their area and finding these objects that you need to be collecting. It's kind of like a hidden object game in a way.
Yeah. I would say this game is pretty much exactly the same as Birth in terms of what you're actually doing. Again, these games are very similar in that it's mostly just solving puzzles to find things, to find other things. What I think is nice about this game is that it is much shorter, though, and still polished. So I would say, I mean, we'll go to recommendations later, but if you want a short 30-minute experience of what Madison Karrh is like, you should play this game, I think, first. And if you want something longer than that, play Birth.
Yeah, I also want to say that Landlord of the Woods is my personal favorite. I don't know what your thought is.
I feel like I can't distinguish between a Landlord of the Woods and Birth. I mean, I like Birth more just because I don't want to say more meat, because it's not like meat was necessarily a problem with these games. There's a lot of meat in them, but
Right?
I just like how expansive the world is in Birth, I guess. It's really comparing apples to apples here. They're the same thing. I like them both. Yeah. These are both her best games.
So throughout this game, you've been a landlord. You've been collecting your rent from these tenants. And at the very end is like, okay, you've collected all the rent. You've done your job as the landlord of the woods. And the main character is like feeling really happy and satisfied with how they were doing this. Like, wow, I really learned to like kind of live in the moment and really find myself. And no matter what I'll be doing, whether at my old job or at this new one, is like I have found a way to live my life in a more fulfilling way now that I've worked for all these people. But now I'm going to go home and just do my thing. And then all the tenants, they come together and go like, wait, main character, come back. We want you to join in with our supper. We want you to really be a part of our little group. It's like, oh, okay, this is our nice friendly ending for like basically any cozy game we'll have, where it's like, okay, we're gonna have all these characters come together again, and we're gonna have a nice ending. But it turns out the supper is you, the main character. You're going to be eaten by the tenants. They are going to take your body and put it into soup and eat you. And the game just ends with them like about to kill the main character, and then cut to them sitting happily at the table, your bones on the table. And it's like, yep, that's it. They ate you. And that's it. The end. After the nice, wholesome ending was like kind of averted, we get instead like a really fucked up thing, and I love it so much.
Yeah, when I first saw this ending, I was like, "Oh my god, she knows what she's doing." This is great.
Yeah,
because it's really like the whole game's called Landlord of the Woods, and the whole time I was playing it, I was like, "What is she doing? What is she doing with this? What is her stance on this?"
yeah. I don't think that she like is always thinking about her games as like cozy games. So this might not be like an intentional reading or anything, but I just read this as like a damning criticism of the cozy game genre as a whole. Because like the whole genre is basically based on labor. It's about organizing things or doing things. Everything from Stardew Valley is like, okay, you're going to be doing farming, which is seen in like so many games now. It's like, okay, you're a farmer. You're going to be doing this labor and you're going to be doing a good job, and you're going to be finding joy from doing this labor and optimizing yourself into selling the most things or whatever. Or they can go into like organizing games. There's tons of those. Like if you're not doing combat in a game, you're probably doing some kind of labor. That's like the two video game genres. It's doing work and killing people, and that's about it. And this game is just so critical of like finding happiness in doing, or maybe not critical, but it's like, this is not the way to find necessarily the way to find happiness in your life, is to be doing your job as well as possible. And it's using like the character of the landlord as like a power dynamic and as something that really should not exist. You're like an invading force on the woods. Like, what does it mean to be taking rent from the woods? What does that mean to be taking these things? It's like leave no trace, right? You're not supposed to be taking whatever you want from the forest or anything. You're not supposed to do that. That is like an anti-nature thing, but it's still using the aesthetics of nature to be like cozy in a way of like doing these things. No, you're just fucking everything up. And these characters aren't friendly because they like you. It's because you're the landlord. They have to be nice to you. And it just feels so critical to me.
I think it is like that. I think there also is another interesting part of it in that, well, it's critical of cozy games, but it is very much itself a cozy game. I mean, this is my interpretation because I like putting stuff in order, but I mean, a lot of this game is putting stuff in order, and she wouldn't have made it in the first place, Madison Karrh, if she didn't enjoy putting stuff in order.
Right.
I mean, the thing about the game that's interesting to me is this. She talks about how her games are kind of based on personal feelings that she has. Birth was about creating a person, and she was like, at some point in the development, she asked herself, well, why am I making a game about a protagonist that wants to create a person? And she says, oh, it's because I'm lonely. She was talking about how she was making Landlord of the Woods because she was frustrated with her job at the moment. And I think it's really funny and really interesting to create a protagonist that wants exactly that, and then to have them go through this whole ordeal and to be like, are they deserving of happiness? Nope, I'm going to kill my self-insert character and have people eat her. That's so awesome. More developers should do that. But like, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that it allows you to enjoy the cozy parts of the game while also completely flipping the middle finger. Well, not really completely, because it's kind of like you're distanced from it. I feel like the ending is still very distant, where you're just kind of like watching this happen. But it's like, it's still, asking question of you, like Berth asked a question at the end of you, like, did you really think all this was, entirely good? Another thing this fits into is relatively order. I know you were talking about how when it comes to order in these cozy games, it was just like about grabbing stuff. When you're in the woods collecting rent, it's just you grabbing stuff and just taking things from people. It's not you putting things back into order. It's you messing with their environment. They didn't ask for this, basically. You inserted yourself into that environment and you mess with them. But I think there is a deeper commentary here in that I like that each environment, you go from tenant to tenant to tenant, and they have like a rent page basically where you collect different items and stuff like that. And I love that all the items of rent are like, they aren't one currency. They're just different objects that could have been used in other contexts. But the game never explains to you what that context is because you don't live in their environment. You're just collecting these random pieces of stuff and treating them all as one like cohesive currency. And the game's like, that's not how that works. But the ultimate part that I thought was hilarious was at the end of this is that the whole game, when it comes to cozy games, you're supposed to do stuff to move on to the next stage and stuff like that. So you're collecting things and you're like crossing stuff off of a list. And like, that's basically the entire, all of our games, which is collecting stuff and crossing them off of the list. And the ultimate irony is that when you're invited back to dinner, the tenants are making their own list, which is a recipe for the soup, and you're the final item. So you were turning their environment into an item the whole time. They turn you into an item and they eat you. That's the end result of this kind of order. So there, in a way, there is like a kind of natural order being restored in Madison Karrh's games. It's just that in this case, it's the landlord being restored to the soup. Yeah.
Right. And it's like a common theme through the whole game, because I think this is the game that has the most dead bodies and organs that you have to use. There's like stitching up organs inside like a dead bird.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, we're really thinking about these dead bodies and thinking about like they're like they had their use there and now they're going to be sustenance, and the landlord is going to be food for the tenants at some point. They're going to eat the rich. That's what's going to happen.
Great game. Great game.
I love it.
All cozy games should end with the people you meet eating you. Like Stardew Valley, get all that in.
There's also this like commentary on nature as well. I think that like part of the like whole Landlord of the Woods thing is that the player, I guess, is like positioning themselves above nature. They're integrating all this rent and things into their organized binder of rent. And it's like, it feels like a gross act. And this is something that like nature is often used in art, like through most of modernism, I guess, even to the classical period, maybe, of like, nature is the place that is outside of society. It's the place where like we go to escape the human and everything. But in doing that and using that as like our escape, we're like integrating it and making it into our own thing. And it's kind of like a grossness to it. And like this game is like kind of commenting on the horrible way that we like think of nature as an escape, and thinking it of something that is like separate to us and not something that we are like enveloping in our own system of thought. And also the woods in this game, it becomes more progressively modern and tech focused. Like at the last area is like a video game instead of being like in the woods. Like it is become from like a tent somewhere in the woods to like a representation of the woods on a screen that is like being brought into the world. And it's like, okay, it is very much commenting on the state of nature in video games as a whole. And again, that might not be intentional, but it's something I thought was really fascinating when I was playing it.
To play devil's advocate for a second, I do want to point out that Birth basically takes place in Chicago, but there's like plants growing around it. And I feel like that is treated much more positively than the stuff in Landlord of the Woods. So I think she does find something interesting about plants like enmeshed in, I mean, if anything, she wants more of nature involved with mankind's like modern stuff, but it is also about interrogating like the dynamics between the two. Again, in Birth, you're basically playing God, and that's not necessarily a good thing because you're just breaking into museums, stealing people's hearts. Still the funniest part of that game to me. I think we brought that up like 3 times in this episode already.
Yeah. If I could speculate, I think that I read Karrh as an artist, as a monist, as everything is just one thing. And a part of this, like organizing in her games, is like bringing everything together, all these parts that we think of as separate, putting them into one thing. That's also why you see have like lots of organs being put into one body. You have lots of these destructions of the distinguishing between nature and society, the destruction between life and death. And there was one, oh yeah, there's a common thing in her games where abstract things will be physicalized and physical things will be abstract. You're moving in between like representations, like you move into a photograph to get something and you get out of the photograph with like it's nothing, and vice versa. And it's just like all of these things that we think of as like static things are things that can be pulled apart and made messy and fuzzy, and it's just a really cool experience in a game.
Yeah, I agree. It also could be pointing out that like all these things are essentially the same within the source of a game engine. That you can in a
True.
game engine you can drag a tattoo out and it becomes a thing. It's basically all pixels. That's another thing. There's a great image in Birth where to accomplish something you walk into a cafe and there's a typewriter. You type on it, and the more you type on it, it doesn't matter what you type, but plants grow all around you. So it's like you're creating life by typing on these things, and it's like that's linking back from like there's a lot of things that are like natural that are turned into man-made things, but this is a man-made thing turned into a natural thing, and it's like I don't know. It goes both ways, basically, is what I'm trying to say. At least in Madison Karrh's world.
I think Landlord of the Woods, as we end off on it, is going to be our marker of like kind of when her games started to be commercially viable, I would say. Like they are things that people will happily play without having much issue. And her first game that is actually in this style is Whimsy, made and released in 2019, which has a lot of the very same setups and is very consistently very similar to Land of the Woods and Birth, but it's done a lot messier. The art isn't as well defined. It seems like she's still kind of learning how she wants to work in her style. The puzzles are a little bit strange and a lot more like your typical point and click adventure puzzles, where you have to be looking for codes and making sure the code is correct and self-referencing through things instead of her more intuitive later games. And it's also kind of glitchy in places where the other two games we talked about were not. It definitely feels like a rough attempt. And I don't think that she really wants people to kind of play it, to be honest. But I still kind of enjoyed it.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's a dry run for her future style that she would later go on to really get down. But the positive about this game is that it's free. So if you want to play just the free version of it, you can go and play it. But I wouldn't say it's her best. I would say Landlord of the Woods is just somewhere to start if you want something of the same length, about 30 minutes and much better. And she has said in interviews, yeah, she doesn't want people playing this game. But it's still there if you want to play it. Here's something I found interesting about this one is that, well, the thing is, the puzzles I feel like are actually the same. I feel like you say they're more point and clicky, but I do think, I mean, there is more text in this one. One nice thing about these games is that there's progressively less text as she keeps making them. And I hope to play one version of the game where there's just no text at all. That would be an interesting version of it. But I love that this game, it opens with the main character being like, I need to find this creature and I'm going down on a quest to find this creature. And spoilers for Whimsy, that doesn't ever really get resolved. The game just ends after a while. It's just like, okay, whatever. This hero's
Yeah.
journey was just like a huge excuse set up to have you go click on things along the way. And it's like, who cares?
Yeah,
Which
the
is the
reason
correct
that I didn't
approach.
talk about the plot of this game is that I completely forgot that that was the plot. Even when I was playing it, I was like, wait a second, what am I doing this again? What is this character doing? And like, I had no idea what was going on a broader sense. I was kind of just focused on these individual scenes because these scenes are still very striking. And I think they're a lot more interested in being kind of abstract and whimsical, for lack of a better word. And it also feels like a lot more symbolic. There's this great part I really loved where there'll be like a dead body on the ground and then a plant will grow from it when you start interacting with it. And that plant will produce a human, and that human will become a king. And you take that king and stick in a bottle, and then you give it to a demon that's hungry, and the demon eats the king. And I was like, okay, this is like really trying to make a storyline out of these objects and these puzzles in a way that her other games like don't really do, that are more focused on like environments instead of like having their own little arcs. But I thought it was just like a kind of fun little symbolism kind of stuff. It's not like super complex or anything, but I enjoyed it.
I really don't have much to say about this game.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know, it is very like I said, it's very abstract and a little bit unfocused in a way that her other games aren't. But still, I enjoyed it. I got pretty stuck on it, and it was glitchy. And I had to look up a guide for one part just because it wasn't working. It's like, am I doing this right? And I was doing it right. It just wasn't working in the way it was supposed to be. It was like, okay, whatever.
Embarrassing to admit to me, I straight up got stuck on like the first puzzle of the game and I had to look up a guide to get past that one puzzle. The rest of her games, much better. Didn't have to spend a single time looking at a hint or anything. Very straightforward. I think it was just bad telegraphing, to be honest. Yeah.
Fair. And there's also this thing in this game where it feels like the hitboxes are off somehow. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
what's going on like a technical sense, but it's like I would try to click on something and then it just wouldn't pick up. It's like, what's going on? Well, what is
Yeah.
happening here? I don't know why.
To me, this feels like a game she made to just kind of get down to style. And like, she was like, I'll just do whatever in the middle. I mean, you can literally see it in the title. She probably just called it Whimsy and was like, anything that fits this vague theme goes in the game. Yeah. That's good. That's how game developers should make games, to be honest, to learn things initially.
Right. And so those are the 3 games that you'll see if you go onto her Steam page or her itch. See all these different games that she did, a very consistent style, a very similar genre. But, and I figured this out like a day before I wanted to record, it's like, oh, wait, she has another game because she talked about in an interview, was like, oh, yeah, I did this one game. I kind of delisted it from my Steam and itch thing. It's like, oh, what is this game? What is this? And it's called Hello World. And you can find it if you Google it, but you can't find it if you like look at any of her socials. So it's still there, but it's unlisted, I guess.
That's right. Other lesser game podcasts would just stop at the first 3 games, but we go in the unlisted itch pages. This is deep next level stuff right here.
Well, we were at a serious danger of not finding it, so we could have been one of those lesser podcasts.
But we weren't, was the important part. Yeah.
So this game is so much different, but also kind of the same. Because this is like also kind of the same, though.
I kind of see what you're talking about, but I'm not willing to argue this as
okay.
something. I don't want to encourage people. Let me just get this out there. I don't want to encourage people to play this game. Maybe you do, but I don't think it's worth. I don't think it's worth.
I don't
playing.
think it was really meant to be found.
Karrh states this very clearly in the interview she gave. This was her attempt. This is her first attempt at using Unity, and she thought she wanted to make a 3D game, and this game taught her that she did not want to make a 3D game. And you can let me just say, I could tell that playing this game that she did not want to make this kind of game.
Right. It's kind of like an experiment. And the fact that it's called Hello World was just like the beginner first thing that you do in a programming language to figure out what you're doing. So poetic, I guess, because it's just kind of like something she made to see if she could make a game. And she could. It wasn't very good, but she could make a game. That's her start, I guess. And that's kind of inspirational in a way. So again, this game is in 3D. Her other games are in 2D. This is a low poly model art style instead of their 2D drawing art style that she had for the other ones. Instead of being like a point and click adventure game, this is kind of like a weird simulation quest kind of game where you have to be moving 4 different characters along to be collecting materials and doing quests for other people. It's kind of like a survival simulation. I don't really know how to categorize it, to be honest.
It's like StarCraft. If you like StarCraft, be sure to play Hello World with Madison Karrh. You'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's totally the same thing. Very competitive too.
Yeah.
But like the way I interacted with it is I kind of didn't really do any of that stuff because the systems were not good and were also very confusing. And I instead kind of played it as a walking simulator where I just go around and see these characters that she made because they are very similar in like character design and tone and everything. Like these characters will be saying strange, poetic things that don't really make any sense on a physical level, which makes it difficult because this is a simulation game and you kind of had to be doing quests. And it doesn't work very well. I don't know, but it's fun and it's not fun in like you're going to have fun when you play this game, but it's fun for me to look at and go, what is going on here? I'm curious. I don't think this is good, but I'm very curious and I want to know more.
On the other hand, I actually tried to play this game according to the objectives that it gave me, and yeah, I had a miserable time. I mean, if you really want to connect it to Karrh's games, you could say that they're both about putting things in order within a natural order. There's a whole mountain range, there's forests and stuff like that. There's not really much of a man-made structure in this, but you control 4 people who are called workers, I think, and you basically send them on fetch quests that these NPCs of the woods and of the plains are asking you. There'll be this NPC that's like, oh, I'm the keeper of the woods because I want you to bring me this guy's skull and put it into this jar. So you can select from these 4 characters and have them. The idea, I'm assuming, is to have them walk across the map and multitask for you, essentially, getting these So this one on the west side of the map can do all the west tasks. This side on the north map can do all the north tasks. And it would be nice if you didn't go north and pick up an item and the character was like, okay, deliver it to the south point over there, and you have to like walk all the way across the map. It takes like 15 minutes to get them across from one map to the other, and there's like 20 quests to do. Man, I did not like
Yeah,
this game.
it's really, really something. I'm really glad that she found her footing in a completely different genre, doing completely different things. And I love that for her, and I love that for me, because I enjoyed those games much, much more.
And another thing is, this does feel much more like a cozy game aesthetic kind of thing. There's like no edge to it, basically. There's no like back talk to you, like about what you're doing. There's not really like anything like that. What do you
That's
think?
true. But I feel like a lot of her kind of subversive attitude comes at the end of these games, and we weren't going to stick with this to get to the end of it. So
I mean, most of these games are like rotting. You pick up stuff from rotting corpses and stuff like that. This doesn't really have that. It's just like,
yeah,
make
true.
this potion for me. Yeah.
Something about Karrh is that she used to make games for doctors. She said this in an interview, and I don't know what that means. I couldn't find anything online for it, but it does make me like kind of fascinated with the way that she treats dead bodies and organs and everything. It's like, okay, there's a connection there. But also, I don't know what games for doctors means. Like, what was she doing as a software developer? What are games for doctors? What is this?
I listened to the interview she gave. I think she did give details on it. She said it was like surgery simulation software. So it's like, I mean, I don't think she went into detail, but it's like you have to simulate doing this procedure of this specific surgery. And she said it was gory, too gory to actually show on screen. So I imagine it involves actual body parts. I mean, this is just my imagination. I'll never get to play these games, but I'm imagining something like Trauma Center, where it's like, oh, you have to stitch up this body in this position and go here and do that, stuff like that. Clicking and dragging type stuff.
Right,
That's
but
just what
she
I'm
didn't say
imagining.
what they were called or anything, so I couldn't find what they were and like see for myself what they entailed.
These were made for private health companies, so I don't think they had names. They were just like meant for doctors, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe I could become a doctor. Maybe we're the lesser podcast because we didn't become doctors and play these games.
Okay, part 2. We'll report back to you in 8 years when we both get pre-med degrees. We're gonna abandon this podcast.
And connecting with that, at the end of almost all of her games, she has this little quote: "Thank you for taking a tiny amount of your allotted time on this earth to play this game." And you know, if we're going to take a tiny amount of our allotted time on this earth, we really gotta be getting those medical degrees to play their games.
Oh yeah.
To really fulfill that wish. But no, I think it's like a really beautiful sentiment. It's also like building a relationship with the player, and like yes, this is a person made by a thing that is really thankful that you were playing this game. It's also tying back to her themes of death and decay, and like, yes, you're going to die, player, and I want to say that while I'm thanking you for playing my game. And I think that's kind of funny in a way, but also very beautiful, and I love it.
It's a good reminder. I mean, I think Balatro would be improved if every like hour they flashed something like time you're closer to death, statistics and stuff like that. Yeah.
I think that they should just give a reminder that you're going to die at the end of every League of Legends match. Just have a little pop up there, like,
yeah,
you spent an hour of your life, of which you have this many left, playing this game. I think that's a good idea. Bring an actuary on there. It'll be a good time.
Congratulations, you spent 4 years on League of Legends. That's the amount of time Leonardo da Vinci took to paint the Mona Lisa. Your life is slipping through your fingers.
Okay. So I think that's about it for Madison Karrh. I really love these games, and I'm still just going to recommend Birth and Landlord of the Woods. Landlord of the Woods is my favorite. I do recommend both of these. They're the only ones I would say are approachable and made to be enjoyed. And they're also the ones that cost money. I didn't even mention. She didn't market her games like at all. And she kind of seems to have like lucked into success by having someone share them on TikTok and that getting like millions of views, and other people like finding them within the internet ecosystem and like, oh wow, everyone, look at this game with a cool art style that is like different from everything else. It's like, well, she could have just been making these games and not have like lucked into something and be making incredible stuff without like actually having success. And that is so sad to me that could have happened. So reminder to everyone, marketing your game and doing social media is important. That is something you got to do sometimes.
Or a reminder to other players, if you want to be like Madison Karrh, don't advertise your game and just hope for luck. Just hope for a TikTok to blow you up. It's going to happen. Just do it.
So true.
That does remind me of what you said at the beginning of this episode, though, which is that you just found Madison Karrh's games on some sale, which
Right.
is advertising, I'm presuming, other indie games. Maybe something about her art style just catches people's eyes,
Yeah.
that just brings people in. Anyways, for my recommendations, basically the same for me. I would recommend Birth and Landlord of the Woods. If you want something short and are willing to pay $1, play Landlord of the Woods. If you're not willing to pay $1 and you're like so scared of money, then I guess you can play Whimsy. But I will warn you, it's definitely not as good as the other two. And Birth is my personal favorite because it takes an hour and a half. But I do feel like some people criticize how repetitive the gameplay is, so it depends on how willing you're willing to get into that. That being said, if you're having a bad day, I think Birth is a good hour and a half that'll make you feel better at the end of, I don't know, a long day or something like that. Presuming
Landlord of the
you're
Woods
okay
is
with
like
dead
40
bodies.
minutes, and I am much happier playing the game that's shorter. I'm very surprised to hear you say that you like the longer one. I'm so
Well, it's
much
just
of a
like
short game advocate.
it was just like I liked putting things in order, and I was like, what if there were more things to put in order? And the game was like, here's more things to put in order, and I was like, yeah, good idea. Yeah, I do want to put more things in order. Thank you, game.
So, recommendations down. I did Madison Karrh. Now, tell me, Galvin, who are we doing next?
You fucking idiot! I told you last episode, dumbass. We're doing John Ingold Part 2.
Oh,
You
fuck.
forgetful moron.
Oh, man, I'm so stupid. I'm so silly.
You definitely
Dang.
didn't just plan that so I could tell you, but you
Man,
definitely
I
didn't
can't
know.
believe this. You told me who it is, and I didn't even know. So,
What a
who
moron.
is John Ingold? Who is this guy?
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you asked that, considering you weren't there during our Part 1 episode. It was just me talking into a camera, into a
Oh, wait,
microphone.
we did an episode on John Ingold? Oh, damn, I should remember
You
that.
idiot.
Crazy.
You moron.
But just as a reminder, who is John Ingold, and what is the next episode going to be about?
John Gingold is an interactive fiction writer who is maybe, I don't want to say maybe the only person, maybe he is the only person, maybe the only person who isn't a Japanese visual novel developer who has figured out a way to monetize interactive fiction. He founded the game Inkle Studios, which uses his engine Ink, which he co-developed with other people that he worked with on PlayStation. But what's interesting is that he had started as a hobbyist text parser game developer who was uploading games to the hobbyist text parser game community, which definitely did not make any money, made absolutely zero money. It was like the least profitable niche ever. And then he got sick. Well, not really sick, but he seemed to have gotten tired of certain conventions of the text parser genre. So he made the Ink engine to help steer his writing more to like a choice-based kind of interactive fiction, and then popularized it through 80 Days, which was something that was released through iOS devices. It was on PCs. It was very popular in the 2010s, but it uses choice-based development and incorporated like things from his parser games into a choice-based format. And that basically took off Inkle Studios. And now they've made a bunch of games like Overboard, Expelled, TR49, which came out recently, Heaven's Vault, the Sorcery games. That actually might be their most popular game. The Sorcery Steve Jackson games, and a bunch of different stuff that involves making choices that are mostly interactive fiction based and people like and actually make money. So we've done the parser games in Part 1. Now we're going to do the rest of his games, the Ink games that I just mentioned in Part 2.
All right, well, this is all new to me, but I'm really interested in learning more about this Greg Gingold guy. So, yeah, we'll look forward to that.
I don't have much more to say.
All right, and that's our episode. I'm Author Function.
I'm Galvin.
Thank you for listening.
That ending's never not going to be awkward, huh? Goodbye.